mac and cheese.
Corn dogs, fish sticks?
Corn dogs, fish sticks.
Like the frozen fish sticks you put in the toaster oven? Oh, yeah.
Oh, my stomach growls.
Toaster oven already dated you right there.
Yeah, dude, that's what I grew up on. Banquet TV dinners.
Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
You know,
Peter Piper pizza.
Oh,
you go.
yeah.
The $5 Caesar.
Little Caesars. Hot and ready.
Hot and ready. Let's go.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure they've shrunk now and gone up in price, but I don't know. I was no cook. Right. My parents never cooked vegetables. It was just always fast food, fried food, all the time. So when I got into CrossFit and wanted to change my nutrition up, I had nowhere to start with cooking. So in my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's boring, but it's because I didn't know how to cook. So it's not so much that it is boring. It's not. It's you have the resources. It's trial and error when it comes to boring. There's so many different ways to cook a chicken. So many different ways to eat your beef, to cook your vegetables, to season your vegetables. I can have the same chicken for lunch every single day, just changing up the way I cook it from slow cooked to on a pan changes the whole meal. And I think people, again, it comes back to laziness. They don't want to invest the time to change things up to the way they like it.
I knew we were going to get along, Sean.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Already liking this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, that is so true. Do you know Mike at Live Lean RX? He does the DEXA scans.
Maybe.
Okay. Well, anyways, he's a really good friend of mine, and he does. And actually, that's how I know Danny as well. And then Danny is how I met you.
So Mike goes to Iron Kill.
No,
okay.
No, but he owns a small business called Live Lean RX Houston.
Okay.
And they do DEXA scans, like body composition scans.
Okay.
VO2 max testing.
Ooh, that would be fun.
RMRs. Yeah, I'll hook you up with him. He's really good friend of mine. And they have nutritionists on staff as well so the people get their DEXA scan, tells them their body composition, how much muscle mass, helps them calculate their macronutrients, calorie intake, and stuff like that, right? But anyways, he told me one time that most people, their entire life, live on 25 foods or less, a variety. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, you know what?
It's nothing.
That is so true. So this variety argument that people make is not real. Just because you eat Wendy's today and Jack in the Box tomorrow, it's still a burger and fries.
Yep.
It's just cooked differently. It's seasoned differently. And it's presented differently. But it's the same food.
Like pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, different places to get pizza.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I like to convert it to like clothing, right? You can have a whole closet of clothes, but there's different ways to dress it up. That's the same with food. That's the same with seasonings. That's the same with air fryer, cook it on a pan, bake it in the oven. There's so many different ways. You just have to be creative in wanting to try it as well.
Let's get specific here. Give me some specific examples of like a week of meal prep and how we take something that sounds boring and spice it up and make it fun.
I'm going to tell you a little story first. So,
Sweet.
When I first started CrossFit coaching, I was doing CrossFit coaching and I was working for Apple and I was a lifeguard. So I was working 3 different jobs to afford CrossFit. It wasn't a pretty penny. So I had to pre-prep everything. I was trying to get into vegetables. Well, unfortunately, I boiled Brussels sprouts. Had to eat it during my break as a lifeguard. Popped it in my mouth and was gagging. Never touched Brussels sprouts again until I moved to Houston when someone made it in a dish. And I was like, there's no way I'm not going to touch that. Like I had a bad experience. I had PTSD, which I'm sure a lot of people have as nutrition clients. My parents are a great example of that. So I try it, right? I was hungry and I was like, oh my God, this tastes amazing. All they did was bake it in oil. And that's when I realized, I'm like, Amanda, you have been so caught up in your first time experience with the way you were initially cooking this healthier food that now you have a bad relationship with it possibly tasting different based on the way you were cooking it before. And that's really my story. It's like, just because you cook it wrong the first time and you don't like it the first time doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to taste that way. And I think that's, like you said, our palates are so small. So it's not that it's boring. It's just that we haven't found a way for you to enjoy it.
Yep. We talked to another remember Dr. Chapa, he talked about that. I said, especially with kids, just because they don't like it today doesn't mean that you can't change it up on them next week, next month.
Yep.
And try it a little bit of a different way. Yep. And then they'll like it and they'll never 100%. Even know.
Our taste buds change as we get older. So
100%.
that's another thing too.
I used to not like veggies at all when I was a kid. And then like as I got older, like Brussels sprouts, broccoli, especially if they're cooked right, it's like I'm on board for sure. It's so 100%.
Good. Yes, but you have to give the trial and error thing, like you said, find what works for you.
Well, then I've also heard clients tell me, oh yeah, coach, I went to Longhorn Steakhouse and I got their broccolini and all this stuff and it tasted good. And I'm like, but you complain that you don't like it when you make it at home. So it's not that you don't like it. It's just you're not cooking it the way you would like it.
And likely they didn't put in any effort into trying to. If you're closed-minded about not liking a food, even when you do cook it, it's like you're cooking it just to prove a point that you don't like it. It's not going to work, right? But if you're actually open-minded,
100%,
then you'll maybe find a way that you do like it. Yes. All right, well, let's talk about